American icons under threat, a shockwave in the travel industry. Have you noticed a shockwave rattling the U.S. travel industry in 2021? 8 massive American brands are on the brink of losing billions in revenue. What's causing these once iconic names to stumble right on their home turf? It's not a recession and it's not a pandemic. It's a perfect storm of soaring prices, security concerns, and visa hurdles. While once bustling shopping streets and casinos are now eerily quiet, 5 countries halfway across the globe are quietly celebrating as they welcome the very travelers who used to flood into the U.S. Some of these brands you might guess, but a few names will absolutely blow your mind. And the bigger question is, how could this trend reshape the entire U.S. travel service and job market? Disney. You can now walk into Disney without waiting in line. And it's not because you have a fast pass. It's because hardly anyone's waiting anymore. A decade ago, a trip to Disney was the highlight of the year for thousands of families. Now, many are skipping it altogether. Countless online videos show eerily empty Disney parks. The latest data shows international attendance at Disney has dropped more than 20% since 2019. Meanwhile, a one-day ticket now tops $150, not to mention pricey food and souvenirs. But cost isn't the only reason visitors are turning away. Many tourists have said frankly, I went to Disney once, came back, and it's the same as before, only way more expensive. Meanwhile, Disney Tokyo keeps rolling out new rides, and Disney Shanghai has transformed its entire park into something like a Broadway show under the open sky. Ironically, even Americans are willing to fly halfway across the globe to experience these parks. With the same budget, families can enjoy an overseas trip, a new Disney experience, and bragging rights to their neighbors. This is the real headache for Disney, losing visitors not just to other parks, but to destinations.
Remember Las Vegas's legendary slogan? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But now the biggest thing happening is customers are leaving Vegas. If you don't believe it, just watch the videos. Entertainment districts and streets that used to be packed are now so empty you could sprint across them without bumping into anyone. According to the latest reports, MGM Resorts casino revenue has dropped more than 15% compared to 2019. The most frequently cited reason? Prices. Hotel rooms are skyrocketing, show tickets are through the roof, and service fees seem to multiply every year. But that's not the whole story. The bigger issue is that Vegas is no longer the only option. Macau, Singapore, and Dubai have built resorts that are more modern, more luxurious, and crucially, don't charge $8 for a bottle of water. Interestingly, Macau now attracts twice as many high-end tourists as Vegas, including plenty of Americans flying overseas just for a change of scenery. MGM isn't sitting. Retail giants. There was a time when a trip to Macy's or Bloomingdale's was a must for international tourists coming to the U.S. shopping. There was an experience. But according to retail industry reports, revenue from tourist shopping has dropped by as much as 25% in just a few years due to a sharp decline in international visitors to the U.S. The reason is pretty straightforward. Many visitors note that goods in the U.S. aren't necessarily cheaper than back home. In some cases, they're even more expensive than in Europe or Asia. Today, tourists are looking for cultural and culinary experiences rather than burying themselves in malls. On top of that, high sales taxes and oversized baggage fees make buying a lot of stuff in the US far less appealing. One woman from Toronto shared that she used to come to New York every year just to shop at Macy's. Back then, I'd bring home at least 3 overflowing suitcases. Now, I'm lucky if I buy a single silk scarf for my granddaughter, she say. Hilton Hotels. Something unusual is happening at Hilton Hotels and Resorts, a chain once considered the pinnacle of modern luxury in the U.S. It's experiencing empty rooms. In the middle of peak travel season in Florida, a housekeeper at a Hilton shared that her schedule has been cut down to just 3 days a week. She says international guests are noticeably fewer, and some weeks only a handful of rooms are occupied. According to STR Global, Hilton's occupancy rates at U.S. tourist hotspots have dropped as much as 15% compared to pre-pandemic levels, even though domestic travel has rebounded. The reason guests are leaving Hilton isn't hard to guess. Room rates are now about 25% higher than before, plus there are numerous extra service fees pushing travelers to choose other options. Many loyal Hilton customers admit they're willing to fly to Portugal or Spain, stay in a similar hotel for only 70% of the cost, and enjoy entirely new scenery and culture. In response, Hilton has recently Marriott, a world-class tech conference that used to take place in New York now moves to Lisbon simply because it's cheaper and more convenient. This sounds unbelievable, but that risk is now very real. According to the American Hotel and Lodging Association, bookings for international conferences in the U.S. dropped nearly 30% over the past year, and Marriott is one of the hardest-hit names. Conference room rental costs in the U.S. are now about 35% higher than in Europe, not to mention hidden service fees and inflated catering prices. Many international companies, even some American ones, have started moving their conferences abroad not just to save money, but to give their employees a memorable trip. For example, a 3-day conference package in Lisbon costs around $500 per person, saving up to $400,000 compared to hosting the same event in Chicago. With such a clear gap, it's no wonder Marriott's U.S. conference booking, Airlines, routes once so familiar to U.S. travelers that you'd always see them on the departure boards are now disappearing. American Airlines and Delta were the wings carrying millions of passengers to every iconic city. But according to OAG data, just in the past year, more than a dozen long-haul international and domestic routes from these two carriers have been cut due to steep drops in passenger numbers. Today, Americans are increasingly turning to international budget airlines, willing to endure layovers to save a few $100s per ticket. Meanwhile, many legendary routes that once relied on premium travelers are losing passengers not because of price, but because U.S. destinations are losing their appeal. For example, the flight from London to Orlando, once packed with European tourists heading to Disney, has been discontinued. Even more striking, many Americans are now flying Qatar Airways to Europe, then connecting onward to Hawaii because the total cost can sometimes s. Cruise lines. When it comes to luxury sea vacations, many Americans immediately think of setting sail from Miami aboard the massive ships of Carnival Cruise Line or Royal Caribbean. Those brightly lit cruise liners, infinity pools, and sun-soaked Caribbean itineraries used to be the pinnacle of American luxury travel. But now the numbers are telling a very different story. According to CLIA, cruise departures from U.S. ports have dropped more than 18% compared to 2019. Meanwhile, departures from Europe and the Caribbean have surged nearly 25% over the same period. Is America's paradise at sea losing its appeal? The biggest barrier once again is cost. Cruise prices departing from the U.S. have risen significantly. Meanwhile, travelers, especially retired Americans, are realizing that with the same budget, they could fly to Europe, hop aboard a Mediterranean cruise, and visit multiple countries instead of sticking around the Caribbean. Many couples now choose to celebrate anniversaries. Caesars Entertainment. Who would have thought that one day the iconic casinos of Atlantic City might be up for sale? Caesars Entertainment, the company behind a host of famous casinos, was once the dream destination for high rollers. But in recent years, the picture has changed entirely. Revenue from international visitors has dropped more than 20%, and hotel bookings have plunged as well. Just like MGM Resorts, Caesars has been hit hard by rising service costs and increasing competition from international markets. Many international visitors, especially high rollers, are now gradually turning to Singapore, Macau, and even Monte Carlo. There they're treated like royalty, free suites, personalized services, and promotional packages worth millions. According to industry sources, part of Caesars hotel casino assets is currently under negotiation for sale to foreign investors. If the deal goes through, it would mark the first time a portion of the American gambling empire falls into foray.